Hey there. Didn't think we'd be doing this again. Hey everybody, it's Chisa here. As you all know, I made a video addressing the allegations made against popular Twitter artist Columbo around 2 weeks ago. Everything had mostly quieted down after that video was released, and I was willing to move on with the situation and forget it had happened, as well as many others for the most part. And yet, this video exists now, so you guys know that is not what happened. On the 24th of April, someone by the name of @LeviFelix, who shall be referred to as Lemon, posted a Twitter thread that compiled all of the original allegations against Columbo from earlier in the month, as well as a completely new allegation into one place. This user has since privated their account to avoid the backlash they were getting, which means that pretty much no one can view their thread and what was brought up within it. Oh, but wouldn't you know it, I have the entire thread archived in a screen recording because I just knew that this would happen. So fuck you, Lemon. You are not escaping from your deplorable actions. Oh, and as a fun side note, they blocked me on their main account. Anyways, as a quick recap of the last video, people came out with allegations against popular artist Columbo at the beginning of April. The allegations made were very flimsy, if they even held any water in the first place, and had evidence that was severely taken out of context or was completely made up / misunderstood. The allegations were: 1. Columbo is lesbophobic. 2. Columbo fetishizes MLM relationships. 3. Columbo is a pro-shipper. 4. Columbo drew pedophilic art. 5. Columbo refuses to use trigger warnings. And 6. Columbo puts minors in danger by allowing them to follow his 18+ account. I'm not going to go into detail on these here, as that was done in my previous video, but I wanted to remind you what the original claims were before we started. We will be briefly talking about the original allegations a little later in the video when we take a close look at Lemon's thread itself, but to start off, I wanted to take a look at the newest claim as well as one of the original claims I actually left out of the first video. So let's do that. If you do want a better understanding of the claims before continuing on, please watch the first video. It will be linked in the description. But of course, before we get started, I will of course mention that if you, the viewer, go and harass anyone mentioned in this video, I completely and utterly disavow that. A major problem with the Columbo situation is that there were a lot of people harassing him and sending him death threats. So if you decide to harass anyone I mentioned in this video, just know that I think you are disgusting and are no better than those being criticized. Be the better person and act like an adult. The 7th allegation: Columbo supports an abuser. From my understanding of the origins of this claim, there was a Google document that someone made that brought up claims against the user @Hunpeitos. The claim was made in the document that they were a stalker and a harasser. Now, to have a better understanding of that situation and how it relates to Columbo, I went and read through the entire document, and there was quite a lot of information since it was roughly 33 pages long. The doc maker claims that Hunpeitos has stalked them for years, made fun of their art, and called them the R-word, among other claims. Within this whole document, there was very little, if any, evidence provided that proves these claims based on my observations. I think this particular situation is a very tricky one and should not be taken at face value from one side, and if I went into it, this video will be far longer than it needs to be, so I will not be going on into detail on it here. If you'd like to learn more about it and review the evidence yourself, you can do so as I have linked the Google document in the description below. But what does this document situation have to do with Columbo? Well, Columbo had supported Hunpeitos on Twitter when the document was made public. I'm not sure what their exact relationship is, but it's likely that they are friends or at least acquaintances. Taking that into account, it would make sense that Columbo would want to defend one of their friends even if they were guilty of the claims. But like I already said, when you look at the Google Doc itself, sure, one might see Hunpeitos as being guilty of what was alleged against them, but there is no substantial evidence provided. The evidence in the Google Doc was mostly just a DM conversation between the doc creator and Hunpeitos on Tumblr, and it comes off to me as a he said, she said argument. I can't personally make a definitive decision on who is guilty or not, so for the sake of this claim, we're going to treat Hunpeitos as if they are innocent. Innocent until proven guilty, until proven otherwise in a court of law. Based on the evidence Lemon provided, which was a singular screenshot, a theme with this thread, all I see is Columbo supporting a friend. Him supporting his friend is not a condemnable offense. And besides, all of the people accusing Columbo of all this bullshit are also supporting their friends in the situation when they're in the wrong, so I don't quite get why this is being brought up when there's no definitive way to prove that Juan was guilty. However, what ends up making this claim even worse is that Lemon says, and I quote, "A Google Doc was spread around with info about user Juan. The author claimed that Juan was an abuser/stalker with evidence to back their case." Lemon, fuck off. The doc maker did claim that Juan was a stalker/harasser. That much is true. But they never claimed that Juan was an abuser. There was an abuser mentioned in the doc, but it was made clear that it was a completely different person that the maker had an experience with in the past. That abuser and Juan are not the same person. If you actually took the time to read the document, you would have known this. What the fuck is wrong with you, Lemon? If Juan was proven to be a stalker/harasser without a shadow of a doubt, then Columbo supporting them would definitely be shitty, yeah. But the evidence provided was very weak and didn't really show what was being claimed, so we cannot make a definitive decision on who was in the wrong. So no, Columbo did not support an abuser. Fuck off with this claim. Now, like I mentioned in the intro of this video, this was actually one of the original claims made against Columbo at the beginning of the month. However, I did not cover it in my first video because when the original thread of allegations was deleted, the Google Doc link was also deleted by proxy. Therefore, I had no way of truly fact-checking this claim, and I didn't want to speak on something I didn't fully understand or couldn't look at in depth. However, I was able to get the link to the Google Doc thanks to someone on Twitter, and that's why I'm now bringing it up in this video. If you would like to take a look through it and see the evidence for yourself, feel free to do so, as once again, I have left a link to it in the description. The 8th and newest allegation: Columbo is racist. I'm actually genuinely surprised something like this wasn't brought up originally because so many people have had this claim levied against them nowadays, to the point that the term racist is just being watered down in my opinion. Anyways, this claim originates from Columbo making a joke in a tweet towards a friend, him supposedly refusing to speak on issues regarding racism in America, and him whitewashing characters from Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's start with a joke. This is the tweet with the joke Columbo made. How are some people gay and racist? Okay, LGBTKKT. So taken at face value, yeah, this tweet does seem kinda bad. But in Lemon's thread, wouldn't you know, it was taken heavily out of context and was misinterpreted. A big issue with Lemon's thread in general is that very serious allegations are condensed into one tweet and never elaborated on when proper elaboration is very much necessary. The racism claim is one of the better examples of this, as there are 2 instances of Columbo supposedly being racist, smushed together with no elaboration on either point. That being the joke and Columbo supposedly not wanting to talk on American issues. The whitewashing issue was not brought up in this thread, but I will still be addressing it as it is important. Lemon spends most of the tweet talking about how Columbo doesn't speak on issues happening in America and only uses the last sentence to address a joke with next to no context. Let's look at what the intentions of the joke were from Columbo. Columbo says that he was having a conversation with a friend who lived in America and also happened to be gay. Said friend brought up the topic of religion, trauma that is sometimes related to religion, and the fact that he was an atheist because of that. Columbo said he didn't have a problem with this. However, once Columbo told his friend that he was a Muslim and an Iraqi, they proceeded to say that based on what their Canadian boyfriend had told them, they believed that Iraqi Muslims were pedophiles and terrorists. I think anyone would be disgusted by that statement, and Columbo obviously was, so he cut contact with and blocked this person who was at one point a friend. After that event happened, that's when Columbo tweeted out the LGBTKKT tweet. It was a joke based on his frustration after talking to an asshole. Simply put, this joke was not racist and was more of a commentary on the issue of racism within the LGBT community. Was it worded poorly? Yeah, but there's a good reason for that. English is not Columbo's first language. You can't expect someone who doesn't speak English as their first language to fully understand nuances in wording and to never make mistakes. Columbo sure as hell has a good understanding of English, but it's not the language he's most used to, so it's very likely he's still going to make mistakes in wording sometimes. Also, another fact towards this potentially not being as serious as claimed is that there were a lot of people of color who were quote retweeting Lemon's thread and commenting on Columbo's tweet saying that they didn't think it was a bad joke. Most were saying that they actually found it to be quite hilarious. However, it is true that some black people were still hurt by this joke, and Columbo rightfully apologized to them. He sees how it could have hurt some people, regardless of his intentions, and wanted to make right on the mistake, so he apologized. Good on you, Columbo. The next side of the Columbo being a racist argument is the fact that he doesn't frequently talk about issues regarding racism in America. I can understand why people would initially be upset with this. Columbo has a very large platform and could definitely use that to spread awareness of what's going on in America. However, I think that a lot of people forget that America is not the only country in the world that has problems that need addressing. America is not the center focus of the world. Many countries have issues pertaining to racism and other serious matters. Columbo lives in the Middle East, and there are lots of problems going on there that affect his everyday life. Having him spread awareness of what happens in other countries would be nice, yeah, but he has far more important things to worry about. He has to worry about racism and homophobia in his everyday life. Columbo isn't ignoring or choosing not to spread awareness of American issues, as he's actually addressed them in the past. He's choosing to focus on what affects him in his everyday life. He's choosing to focus on stuff that affects his friends, family, and others in his country. Oh, but funny thing, Columbo says in a tweet defending himself against this that people weren't even mad at him based on him not speaking on racial tensions in America. Apparently, people were mad because he wasn't speaking on a situation pertaining to voting laws in Georgia, Ben Shapiro, and Home Depot, so who the fuck even knows why people are mad anymore? The third part of this racism allegation is that Columbo whitewashed characters from Jujutsu Kaisen. What? This is the art Columbo drew of the three main characters of Jujutsu Kaisen. And here is some of the art of the same characters from the show itself. So, does anyone want to explain to me how this art of Columbo is whitewashing the characters? It seems to me that people in the quote retweets of the original tweet Columbo posted were saying that this art was erasing Asian features the characters had in the show. Quite honestly, I just don't see what people were talking about. The only real changes made to the characters are just a byproduct of Columbo's art style. And besides, these are stylized interpretations of human features. That's what all anime is. Other than discrepancies from the art style, the characters in Columbo's art look exactly the same as they do in the show, so I genuinely do not understand why people thought this was a genuine case of whitewashing. And in another tweet attached to the one I brought up in the last section, Columbo also stated that he never once said that all Asians look the same. Who was actually doing that? The people who were calling him out. Ironic, isn't it? So those were the two allegations I wanted to address in this video that I didn't get to in the last one. They're of course bullshit and badly misinterpreted, but what can we honestly expect anymore? For the next part of this video, I want to go through and address the thread that was made by Lemon and the specific issues I have with its individual tweets. I mentioned before at the beginning of the racism section how very serious allegations were condensed down into singular tweets with absolutely no elaboration when it is very much necessary. But Jesus Christ, there are so many more issues with this damn thread. Let's begin. The first issue is with the third tweet, and let me tell you, it genuinely fucking pisses me off. This tweet references the allegation where people claim that Columbo had drawn pedophilic art. Lemon says, "To start off, let's look at this art of Maid Levi and Child Irwin. Columbo has stated that this was inspired by Black Lagoon. The issue here is that Columbo explicitly ships Ururi and draws porn for it. With that context, this art is super creepy." You see what I mean? Yes, it is true that Columbo draws NSFW art of Irwin and Levi on occasion. I said as much in my first video, it's a fact. But how in the ever-loving fuck does that make this specific piece of art sexual? Are you actually serious, Lemon? Just because Columbo sometimes draws NSFW art of Irwin and Levi, that doesn't inherently give this art piece sexual undertones. That is such a reach that I'm surprised you're still on planet Earth. You're adding completely unnecessary context based on your own blatant misunderstanding. Your misinterpretation of this artwork does not equal fact. Your misinterpretation is not equal to Columbo's intention. The next tweet is in relation to the claim that Columbo is lesbophobic. This one isn't as bad because it's mostly just the same thing as the original allegation. Lemon is saying that Columbo's tweet completely invalidates so many people when that's just not true. As I mentioned in the last video, Columbo isn't making this statement in a way that's meant to be rude or demeaning. He's saying that he thinks it's scary that a fictional lesbian was forced to get pregnant because anyone, fictional or not, being forced to have a child is shocking and scary. I elaborate more on this in my other video, but just know that essentially this tweet is stupid because Lemon is once again stating a misinterpretation as fact. Ooh, the next one. This one is fun. The next tweet is in reference to the claim that Columbo refuses to use trigger warnings. Someone asked them to use a trigger warning and they refused and posted this rant instead. Not everyone deals with trauma the same way, and not putting a trigger warning when asked is ableist and completely insensitive to those with PTSD and anxiety. Lemon, your privilege is showing through here so hard that I think it's genuinely hilarious. The fact that you and others are asking someone who has suffered through the horrendous actions of their own government to put a trigger warning on their post just so it makes you comfortable is so fucking weird and shows just how privileged and entitled you really are. Columbo is trying to spread awareness of the actions of a government in relation to war where he lives. Posting a trigger warning on his tweets regarding the subject will actually hinder that effort Columbo is making. Why are you speaking for other people? Why do you think that your temporary comfort is more important than people speaking out about stuff that affects their everyday lives? Lemon, you are an entitled piece of shit, and calling this statement ableist is even worse because that's just blatantly not what it is. I already addressed the tweet, which is in regards to the Google Doc debacle, so the next tweet in the thread we'll be discussing is actually a series of tweets on one topic, for once, and it is where Lemon talks about the allegation that Columbo is /supported a pro-shipper. Columbo also defended user Wang Wang Chim when they were being called out for being a pro-shipper and drawing CP. They said, "damn kids," instead of acknowledging that Wang is a pedophile. Yeah, so this first tweet is really fucking stupid. Lemon, of course, makes the claim that Columbo also defended a user when they were being called out for drawing CP and made a joke instead of addressing that Wang is a pedophile. Lemon, you fucking moron, that is not what the provided screenshot says. Are you blind? In the screenshot that you provided, Columbo is talking about how those who are trying to harass Wang and hack into their account are stupid and are bad people, which is a fact. Regardless of your personal opinion of Wang, they don't deserve to be harassed or have their account hacked. Columbo is not wrong for wanting to support an artist when they're talking about how they're getting harassed. Also, Lemon, you are actually disgusting for outright calling Wang a pedophile in your thread. There has been absolutely no substantial evidence brought up to prove that claim, so you saying this is outright slanderous. The term pedophile isn't something you can just throw around because it has very serious implications and can have very serious consequences. It is not a term you should use so lightly, Lemon. Also, another thing. Apparently, Wang might not even actually be guilty of drawing the anime CP they were accused of drawing or whatever. I was reading a lot of the quote tweets on the thread before Lemon privated their account, and a lot of people kept bringing up how Wang wasn't actually guilty of drawing CP. I'm not gonna say this definitively, but I find this a bit weird. The next tweet in the series is one where Lemon looks at one of Columbo's responses to the original pro-shipper allegation. Columbo says in the provided screenshot that he had addressed the allegation in response to someone else questioning why he supposedly did not. In this tweet, Columbo addressed the pro-shipper accusation by saying that the bad art Wang drew was of anime characters and therefore was just lines on paper, and that's why this is being brought up again. People just don't like what Columbo said. Now, I will say that the wording here is a little weird on Columbo's end, but I already addressed why that would likely have happened and isn't an issue earlier in the video. But honestly, Columbo is right about what he said regardless. And before you chastise me for saying that, however, just wait a little bit longer because I will be addressing it in conjunction to another claim later in the thread. About the pro-shipper term as a whole, I've since learned more about what it actually means. And it seems that I was correct in stating that the meaning of pro-shipper is not as black and white as some people were surmising. People in the comments of my last video told me that the word pro-shipping mostly just describes shipping as a whole, and the problematic part of the definition depends on an individual. So with that in mind, the whole Columbo is/supports a pro-shipper claim is even more stupid than I once thought. Y'all are children and you don't understand the words you're using against people. Calm down for fuck's sake. So the next little section of the thread is just Lemon complaining about Columbo's defense thread because he didn't defend himself in the specific way Lemon would have liked or something. I don't know, honestly, so we'll just move on. But this next tweet, yeah, I'm about to get angry. Columbo made a tweet after the initial drama died down where he said that he would love to see people fight for the rights of real-life children rather than fictional characters. And Lemon says in their thread, people can care about both. Yes, you absolute idiot. Yes, people can care about both. But even then, why do you think that Columbo saying that real children are more important is a fucking problem when it's blatant fact? There are real children out there who suffer from sexual abuse, and that issue needs more attention brought to it. We all need to raise awareness and fight for these kids because what they go through is horrible and they can't always fight for themselves. So why in the ever-loving fuck do you think that caring more about real children over fictional characters is a problem? You can absolutely care about fictional characters and real people at the same time, but the fact of the matter is that real children will always be more important than fictional children. This is also why I said Columbo wasn't necessarily in the wrong for saying they're just lines on paper early in reference to the Wang Wang thing. That's because it's true. You seem to care so much about fictional characters and drawings that you forget that there are real people in the world suffering in ways we can only imagine. Lemon, I cannot believe you'd say this in your thread, like this is an actual condemnable offense against Columbo. Fuck you. The next screenshot provided shows that Columbo liked art of supposedly pedophilic ships from Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I only say supposedly because I have not watched the series yet myself, and I don't know how old the characters are or who they are really. From what I've heard from most people, however, it does seem that this is a problematic ship in the same vein as Eren and Levi from Attack on Titan. I won't defend these ships, but I'm still going to defend Columbo because y'all are stupid. Columbo has said that he has not watched Jujutsu Kaisen yet. He hadn't watched it before he drew the fan art and hadn't watched it before liking art of some of the main characters. So, if Columbo has yet to watch a show and knows nothing about the characters other than what they look like, how exactly do you expect him to know that this ship is wrong? To me and so many other people, it's obvious that Columbo was only liking this artwork because it's really good quality, not because of the ship itself. Easy point to cover, so moving on. The next point Lemon makes in their thread is how Columbo makes everything in this drama about ships and how in reality, the people calling him out for his wrongdoings are upset about abuse, lesbophobia, ableism, and pedophilia. First off, ableism? No. That was never really alleged against Columbo. You only brought it up in this thread based on your own misinterpretation of Columbo's words on refusing to use trigger warnings. That is bullshit. I've already talked about the other stuff in the last video and in this video, so that's where we're going to end the discussion of Lemon's thread. Now, I'm just going to rant a bit. Lemon, you say that the people calling Columbo out and holding him accountable for his supposedly bad actions care oh so much about these serious topics mentioned in the thread, but this is so clearly false that it hurts. Every single accusation made against Columbo in this thread and the original thread has been severely blown out of proportion or completely made up. There has not been a single piece of substantial evidence to prove he is guilty of anything that was claimed, yet so many people blindly believed the claims and ran with them. It seems that no one bothered to take a step back and take a second look at anything. People would rather blindly believe their friends or mutuals and protect their own image rather than believing the truth. This whole situation seems like it was in large part only about jealousy. People were jealous that another person was doing better than them in life and getting more attention than they were. That's what it honestly seems like the situation was about to me and so many others. If you guys actually cared about calling out someone who's problematic and making sure they can't hurt anyone else with their actions, then you wouldn't be acting this way. You wouldn't celebrate someone deactivating their account, and you wouldn't celebrate them getting the backlash you believe they deserve in the way that you are. If you actually cared about calling someone out, you do it in a mature way and would make sure to have substantial evidence to prove your side beyond a reasonable doubt. And another problem with this is that there were so many people who just believed the false allegations just because their friends and mutuals told them to. I highly doubt that most people took a deep look at the allegations and evidence provided on their own and instead elected to believe their friends only because of the misplaced trust they held in them. If your friends are blindly believing or making false allegations against someone else so willy-nilly, who's to say that they wouldn't do the same thing to you when you slip up in a minuscule way in the future? It's kind of hard to explain, so I'll just read off this thread that I saw from @AckerSmitharian. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. They explain this pretty well. If you're the sort to believe very serious allegations without investigating the truth of those allegations, taking your moot's word for everything instead of thinking for yourself and coming to your own conclusions, thus perpetuating false narratives, don't let me catch you acting like you care about what's right. Someone who cares about what is right won't jump to conclusions, especially not on the word of someone who makes accusations behind the cover of anonymity, without first taking into account every side to a story. Is there no habeas corpus where you're from? Do people get sentenced before they're given a fair trial where you are? If that's the case at your place, don't enforce it here, especially not if you want to show everyone how unproblematic you are. Spinelessness is very problematic. It's problematic because if one person was being malicious as opposed to getting their facts wrong about a person, anyone believing them without investigating their allegations would cause more people to hate the one under fire for wrongs they oftentimes didn't even commit. And it is never right to condemn the innocent. As a writer, I know how easy it is to twist narratives, to make people see what I want them to see. That's why it's important to conduct your own investigation instead of just believing what your moods say about a person. You're not their slave, that their opinions need to be yours too. And if you find you don't have the time or energy to conduct your own investigation, imagine how it is for the one being accused, they're probably more exhausted than you are. That's a good sign you shouldn't partake in the spreading of allegations. If you feel you've got to take part in harassing someone who may or may not be innocent to please a mood of yours, you might want to reconsider being moots with them. Is partaking in hurting a stranger worth keeping their friendship? What is their friendship even worth? The way I see it, if they would go out of their way to hurt someone who has done them no personal wrong, to twist their words too, for the sake of satiating their ego, they don't care about the truth. What's to guarantee they won't do that to you too? Sure, they're on your side now, but considering how they call people out for clout, uncaring of how such callouts might affect the person, uncaring of how the person might be innocent, doing it just because it feels good, what's stopping them from feeling good by finding fault in you? The fact that you share opinions? Haha. Even the best of friends beg to differ sometimes. And if they've never, one or the other's an ass licker, that or they're a manipulator. Are you really okay with being moots with someone whose opinion you can't contradict lest they come after you? You are your own person, your own expert. You can and are allowed to think for yourself. And if someone you follow makes you feel otherwise, you might want to reconsider following them. You're more than just a follower. People on Twitter need to learn that blindly trusting their friends and mutuals is only setting them up for problems in the future. You'll be under their wing supporting allegations against someone you both find to be problematic together until one day that same person casts you aside and makes equally damaging accusations against you. Friendships are very finicky, especially online. You need to be extremely careful with who you associate with. If you ever feel that someone is acting in a problematic way and you don't feel comfortable supporting them, then distance yourself from that person. You don't need to force yourself to be friends with people. It is always important that you think for yourself. Don't always believe your friends without question. Use your own brain and think for yourself. Now, this final part is where things actually get serious. far more than they ever had originally. At the height of everything, Columbo once again defended himself against the allegations, but in individual tweets rather than a singular thread this time around. However, he also deleted every single piece of art he had ever posted on his side account and said that he will soon be deactivating said account or just no longer being active on it once everything dies down again. Now, why did Columbo make this choice, you may be asking? Well, first, let me preface this explanation by saying that it's well known that Columbo lives in a very conservative country and that his family is very homophobic. After all the allegations were brought back up again, there were apparently several people who managed to track down one of Columbo's family members online and tried to out him for these allegations and his sexuality. This is some of the most deplorable and disgusting shit I have ever fucking seen. The people who tried to reach out to Columbo's family about the allegations directly put his life in danger because of how homophobic his family is. This situation almost had real-life fucking consequences to Columbo's safety and well-being. Now, thank God that the family member people managed to find already knew about Columbo's online presence and sexuality, as he's already come out to them in the past. But the fact that people still tried to out Columbo to his homophobic family and put his life in danger is absolutely fucking disgusting. I brought this up in my last video, but let's say that hypothetically Columbo was guilty of these accusations. Why on God's green earth would you ever go out of your way to harass him? Harassing Columbo would make you just as, if not more, of a shitty person than him, so you would therefore be no better than him. What's the fucking point in trying to put someone's life in danger because you don't like them and because there were false allegations made against them? What's the point in harassing anyone at all? And why would you celebrate Columbo potentially deactivating or going inactive? Don't you care that he is making that choice for his safety because his life was put in fucking danger because of the situation? Or do you think that this is all some game of who shall we cancel next? If you celebrated Columbo making this decision to deactivate/go inactive, you were gross. That's just a fact. None of what was claimed against him was true, and so you're celebrating him deactivating for honestly nothing. Do you people genuinely not understand how serious the situation was? Do you not understand that Columbo made the choice he did because his life was in fucking danger? I don't see a reason for acting like this towards someone. It's so childish and disgusting. One thing I find really funny about this situation is that Lemon, the one who made the thread resurfacing the allegations after they died down, made a tweet after the fact saying that you shouldn't go and harass Columbo. C-Word is deleting one of their accounts. I would like to say whoever was sending them gore/death threads and telling them the KYS is gonna rot in hell, and purposely outing them to their family is so fucked up. That was never my intention, and you took it too far. Also, look, really, Lemon? You're too afraid to say the word Columbo? Come on now. I would love to believe that Lemon believes their own words in this tweet, but I'm going to have to call bullshit on that. Lemon, if you actually cared about people harassing Columbo, you would have made a statement advising against harassment at the beginning of your thread, or you would have just never have made the thread to begin with. You making this tweet after the fact makes it seem like you're only trying to save face and backpedal because you realize that your actions had a direct effect on Columbo's well-being and people are giving you shit for it. You don't get to claim after the fact that this is a problem. You are the one who started this shit show. Everything had mostly died down until people got upset at Columbo's Jujutsu Kaisen art, and then you felt that it was necessary to make a thread where you re-brought up the false allegations again because you saw the opportunity to try and take Columbo down. Maybe that wasn't your direct intention, but it sure as hell comes off that way. Why didn't you make your thread when the allegations first surfaced if you cared so much? Why did you wait to post it until he was getting shit from morons about some fan art and Columbo became a popular topic again? This situation honestly seems to me like you saw the opportunity to take down someone popular that you do not personally like, rather than actually giving a fuck about them potentially being a horrible person. Lemon, you are a disgusting person, and your actions are absolutely deplorable. I know you didn't send Columbo death threats or try to directly contact his family yourself, but if you hadn't made this thread to begin with, then none of this would have ever escalated to the extent that it did. This situation is almost entirely your fault. Fuck you, Lemon. You deserve every single bit of backlash you are receiving. You don't deserve harassment, but you most certainly deserve the backlash. And you know what? I think I can confidently say that you and anyone else involved in making these claims are guilty of defamation, slander, and libel. Your actions have caused a directly negative effect on Columbo's reputation. You accused him of horrendous actions with no substantial evidence, and that 100% damaged Columbo. You turned so many people against him for no real reason, and that tarnished his reputation. I was a bit wary of using these terms at first because I wasn't sure if the situation could be described in that way. But after making the second video and therefore looking deeper into the situation, I'm definitely pretty damn confident in saying that you are guilty of these. Once again, Lemon, I am absolutely disgusted by your actions and how badly you have treated Columbo. You and anyone else involved should be utterly ashamed of yourselves. Your actions caused Columbo to be harassed to the point where his life was put in harm's way. Fuck you and anyone who thinks that what you've done is okay. And that should be it for this video. The whole situation got way too out of hand, and it was handled mostly by people who are underage and don't fully understand the ramifications of their actions and don't seem to have any sort of critical thinking skills. People acted so childishly by choosing to blindly believe their friends and mutuals rather than stepping back to take a second look at what was alleged. That's why the situation became far more serious than it ever needed to be. Learn to think for yourself. It's okay to relook at things if you don't agree with what's being said. Be the bigger person and follow the truth. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please go give your support to Columbo as he most certainly needs it at the moment, and I apologize for getting so angry. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.